Hi guys, welcome to our new history session. So we were discussing history our past part 3 class 8 of NCRT. So we have already completed discussing chapter first, that is how, when and where. So we will be starting with chapter 2 from trade to territory, the company established power. So So we will look into chapter two of our past 3 class 8 NCRT. So chapter 2 is titled as From Trade to Territory, the company establishes power. So this is the chapter which is explaining how a company like East India Company came to India as a trading company, and establishes its rule over the Indian territory and establishes his power over Indian rulers, and how it establishes into a administrative power from a mere mercantile company. So this is a chapter which dealt about the growth of East India Company from its starting to its milestone in making its path to become a ambitious administrative power in India. So the first part of this chapter says that Aurangzeb. So we all know that Mughal Empire was very powerful. Almost 70% of India was ruled by Mughals under Mughal Empire. So during early 70s, this Mughal Empire began to decline. There were many reasons, like the failure of a centralized administrative system and rise of new local zamindars and local nawabs proclaiming their territory as sovereign and independent, and like that for everything, for every country or for every state, there will be a flourishing phase and a declining phase. So this was the time when Mughal Empire was declining. So it's 1707, and Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb died. So after his death, many of his zamindars came forward to claim their territory as independent and sovereign, and they tried to separate their territory from Mughal centralized administration. So this was the political atmosphere of India during that time, 18th century, early 18th century. So this was the political situation, and also after the decline of Mughal Empire, after the decline, I mean that after the powerful administration, or after the decline of centralized power of the Mughal Empire, there are also another power in India. Other than the subordinate and zamindars of Mughals, there witnessed a growth of another power in India, that is the British East India Company. So we will look into the British East India Company. Who were they? Why did they came to India? What were the circumstances which led them to come to India? And how did they became an administrative power in India? So actually, British East India Company was just mere a company. It's not a authorized authorized, what I can say, authorized part or authorized subsidiary of any British Empire or British Crown. It's just a company. It's just a mercantile company, like yet another company nowadays, like Reliance, Tata, or some other company. Like it's a group. It's a group company. So they were doing trade. So it's just mere a company. As we might think that it's a part of any British Crown or British Empire. It's nothing like that. It was just a company formed for trading in Southeast India and procuring raw materials from these countries and selling that into England and other parts of Europe. So this was their main business. So they were not any like any part, not a part of any British Crown or an empire. Just a company, a mere company. So during 1600, East India Company acquired a charter from ruler of England, Elizabeth I, granting the company the sole right to trade in India, trade with the East. So this was the major thing. This was a major successful thing which the British East India Company acquired from the British Crown. That no other company from England will be allowed to trade with East other than British East India Company. So only one company will be trading with East, that is British East India Company. So no other company will be trading with the East. So this grant they have acquired from Queen of England, Queen Elizabeth I. So this was their major success in trading. So in the very first itself, they were successful in getting away their rivals in East. So this was their success. So no other company from England will be trading in eastern part, like East Asia, including India, Burma, China, Sri Lanka. So no other company will be trading. Only British East India Company are allowed to trade in these areas. So no other company will be going to trade from England to these areas. So this thing they achieved successfully, but other European forces, other European companies were allowed to trade. So this is just for England itself. So there are many nations inside Europe: Portuguese, French, Dutch. So many nations, so many states were there, and so many companies were there. So these companies can trade. So these people only got the grant from Queen of Elizabeth that no other company from England will be competing with you. So other companies from Europe will be competing with British East India Company in eastern part of the Asia. So those days mercantile companies means what did they do was they made huge profit primarily by excluding competitions. So one of the main thing to make huge profit was to merely avoid competition. So if there are 100 companies, means your trade competition will be higher, and you have to sell products with less price than any other one offers. So if there are no rivals and you are the only company trading, so you can fix any price for your goods. So this was the condition. So this was the thing which mercantile company was doing at that time for boosting their profit. So simply avoid rivals. So Yeah, so after getting that grant, British East India Company came to India. So the trading route was crossing the Cape of Good Hope in Africa. That point that you can see in the map, that Cape of Good Hope there. So crossing the Cape of Good Hope, they have came to India. So they came to India for the first time to trade with India. This British East India Company. At that time also, before 100 years or 200 years back, that is in 1498 onwards, these Portuguese were uh, trading. Portuguese were had good relations with India, and they were trading. So in 1498, Vasco da Gama landed in Kappikadavu, Kapadu, and from that day onwards, this Portuguese and Dutch have trade in India, trade partnership with India. So at the time when British East India Company reaches India, there were already the presence of Dutch and Portuguese. So these Dutch, this Portuguese had already their base in Goa. Initially, they were trying to get exclusive trade right in Calicut. So these Portuguese, they were initially trying to get exclusive right or trade in Calicut, Malabar port, but this was countered by Arabs. So these Portuguese had these Portuguese had many fight with Arabs in Malabar coast. So these Portuguese even tried to replace the Samorin of Calicut at that time by poisoning him with the help of his own brother, and making his own brother as the king. So there were many stories. We all know that the story of Kunyali Marakkar and the rebels between Portuguese and those stories. So after those fights and failed tries, so they were not allowed, or they were expelled. We can say that they were expelled from the Malabar coast, not exclusively, but they understood that they could not flourish in Malabar coast with the presence of Arabs. So they moved to Goa. So they had their settlements at Portuguese had their settlements at Goa, and also Dutch also had their presence. So the first people to come to India for trade was Portuguese, followed by Dutch, then Britishers, then at last French. So this is the chronological order. First was Portuguese, then Dutch, then British, then French. So at that time, as I have explained, that there are many fights between, as I mentioned about the fight between Arabs and Portuguese in Malabar coast. So these foreign powers, these foreign companies and foreign traders used to fight with each other for their exclusive right over trade, and to get rid of any other rival opponent in trade. So these people were carrying arms also. And intense conflict was also there between the local rulers in these trade things. So British East India Company reached India after getting a grant, an exclusive grant from Queen of Elizabeth I in 1600, and in 1651, after 51 years, in Calcutta, in banks of river Hooghly, they established their settlements. they established their settlements, uh, and these settlements contains traders, factories, warehouse, etc. So in 19 no you know in sorry in 1696 they began to fortify their settlements. So in Calcutta their settlements were already there, like there some factories, warehouses, and their merchants and their traders were there, and they had a permanent settlement there. And in 1696 what they did was they tried to fortify the settlements. So fortification was necessary. So in order to protect from other other trade rebels and other local rulers and interfere of local rulers, it was necessary to construct a fort around the settlement. In 1696 they did that. So 2 years after, in 1698, they bribed Mughal officials. So as I told in the introduction that this Mughal empire was at the verge of collapse, or they have lost almost their centralized power and their power. So at that time they had this Mughal empire was very vulnerable to prone to external attacks, or this kind of bribing and etc. can occur. So this British official, what they did was they bribed the Mughal officials, and they granted zamindari right over 3 villages. So company got zamindari right over 3 villages, including Calcutta. So they bribed the local administrative official in Mughal Empire, and they got zamindari right of 3 villages. So what this zamindari right is that they can collect revenue tax. So they can collect tax from these 3 villages. They can fix the tax and they can collect the tax. So this was the major victory to the East India Company. So without trading they are getting the tax. So this zamindari right means the entire tax collected will not be taken to British East India Company, but they are allowed to collect tax, and a portion of the tax they can retain. Other portion they have to give to Mughal centralized power. So this was a major victory. So a foreign company coming, and they are without trading they are getting profit without doing anything. They are collecting the tax and giving some portion to Mughal and taking the other portion with them. So this was a major milestone in the life of British East India Company. So it also persuaded the Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb to issue a farman granting the company the right to trade duty free. So after granting this zamindari rights, they also got a farman granting the company to trade duty free. This is very important. So this is very important. Any company which is trading in a state of India at that time need to give tax to this, give duty to the corresponding state's authority. So the company also acquired a right from Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb that they can freely trade in the Mughal Empire to trade duty free. So did not need to pay any duty to Mughal empire. They can freely trade. So this Farman was granted to company. So this was very important. So these things, as I told, they made fortification. They were successful in getting zamindari rights over 3 villages, including Calcutta, and also they were successful in getting a farman from Aurangzeb to trade duty free. These three things were important in the growth of British East India Company. They were just exploiting the vulnerability of the Mughal Empire. They have no intention to rule India. They had no intention to interfere in the internal matters of India, or they are not ready to rule India or nothing. So they came to India for trading, so to make profit. So what are the ways of making profit? So this is what they thought. So for making profit, if any duty free thing which emperor can give, so it will be a major success, major milestone. So they tried for that, they got. So if they were allowed to, if they were if they could get a zamindari right over any villages, it's a part of their profit. They collect tax, they give some portion to Mughal administration and take another amount, another share from the amount, and they can use this for financing their business in India. So they thought in the perspective of trade. So they say they did not have any big plan of ruling India or nothing like that. So they were just exploiting the vulnerability of the Mughal Empire. So these things, this fortification. So this fortification, so even though these areas, this Calcutta, Bengal, etc., were under the Mughal administration, they were local chiefs. So these local chiefs like Nawab of Hyderabad, Nawab of Bengal, so these were local kings under Mughal Empire. So this fortification and fortification and granting zamindari right, etc., these things, these Nawabs of Bengal, they didn't tolerated this. So this fortification, when they are doing a fortification around the settlement, the Nawabs of Bengal opposed that initially. So what happened is that they have successfully got a farman. So this farman is only for the company. Company can trade duty free in anywhere in the Mughal Empire. So what the officials of British East India Company did was, they used this farman for their individual business purposes. So this farman cannot be used for any individual purposes. This company, in the name of the company, they can use. So individual person cannot use this farman for trading duty free in Mughal Empire. So this official had their businesses. They had their own businesses. So officials also started using this farman. Mughal emperor gave this farman. So we are doing duty free. You are to ask like that. So these things, this fortification, this private trade without giving any duty, these things made Nawab of Bengal, Murshid Quli Khan furious. So these were the things. Any ruler who were ruling at that time will be furious about these things, because this company itself is not paying any duty, and this all official and all Englishmen were coming and trading without giving any duty. So there is a huge loss for the state of Bengal. The state of Bengal was comprising of present day Bengal, and present day Bangladesh also. So it was a very vast country. So a huge loss had incurred upon the state of Bengal. So eventually this Nawab of Bengal, Murshid Ali Khan, got furious, and it started the conflict between Nawabs of Bengal and British East India Company. So these were the three things. This Farman was used by individuals in British East India Company for their own private businesses, and this Farman itself was not entertained, not what I can say. It was like not in terms of Nawabs of Bengal, as it was incurring a huge loss to the state of Bengal. Also this fortification and this, they were also sending some disrespectful letters, and this British East India Company, they were not respecting the rulers and local rulers. They did not mind the local rulers. This Nawab of Bengal, they were talking with the Mughals directly. So they were not humble to Nawabs of Bengal. So these factors led to a conflict between the British East India Company and Nawab of Bengal, not with the Mughals. Nawab of Bengal and British East India Company. So these were the things. So after the death of Aurangzeb, so I was in the beginning itself, I talked about the death of Aurangzeb. So after the death of Aurangzeb, what happened is that Bengal declared we are independent. Bengal asserted their power and autonomy, and as any other powers were doing at that time. So if any centralized ruler or centralized administration collapsed, this subsidiary state became so powerful that they were asserting their power and sovereignty. So same way this Bengal, the state of Bengal, this Nawabs of Bengal also became asserting their power, and at that time they refused this trade of British East India Company, trade without duty. So they opposed that if you want to trade in the state of Bengal, you need to pay duty, otherwise don't trade in our country. So this was the stand which was taken by Nawabs of Bengal against British East India Company. So this all grants and etc. was granted by Mughal, but Mughal have gone. Mughal have almost completely gone after the death of Aurangzeb. It became weak. So this is our country. This is the state of Bengal is under Nawab of Bengal. So they asserted that this duty free, that Farman and everything will not be working now onwards. So you have to pay huge amount of duty to the state of Bengal. So this Murshid Ali Khan, followed by Ali Waridi Khan, then came his son Sirajuddaula. He is very powerful. He is very powerful that he denied any right to mint coins. This company's right to mint any coins, company's right to trade duty free without any tribute, and stopped it from extending its fortification. So these were the things Nawab of Bengal, Sirajuddaula, did. And in return to that, the company was refusing to pay any taxes, or they were not ready to have a friendly ties with the Nawab of Bengal. So they were denying. So they were also making their stand clear that they are not ready to pay taxes. So company on its part declared that the unjust demands of the local were running the raid of the company, and trade could. They were saying that this trade could flourish only if this duty free grant is given, if you are allowed to extend our settlements. So these were the things to flourish our trade. So we are not ready to give any taxes, or we are not going to stop the expansion of our settlements and fortifications. So these conflict led to the Battle of Plassey. So we will look in next class about Battle of Plassey. So we were talking about how British, not British, while we are talking about this independence and those colonial time, we were always talking about the British. So it indirectly we were pointing to British Crown and British administration, or this British people. It's not like that. It is British East India Company, a company which came to trade with India, which later became a powerful administrative power in India. So this was just a company. So we are talking about how did they came, what were the circumstances, and what were the events which led to the company's conflict with the rulers, and the events which led to that. So we will look into next part, the Battle of Plassey between Siraj-ud-Dawla and British East India Company. Okay guys, bye.